What's up everyone, Kara Corey here from Kara Corey Fit Life, and tonight we are going to make some big chocolate chip cookies using our MTS Isolate in vanilla ice cream. Now these are going to be somewhat of a copycat type cookie of your Lenny and Larry's cookies. I'm going to talk more about Lenny and Larry's cookies on my channel, Kara Corey Fit Life, later this week, so be sure to check that out. But the one thing I will say is the beauty of making a cookie like this in your own home is you know what ingredients you're putting in it, you can calculate the nutritionals, and you know it's going to be more accurate than some of the stuff that you purchase, such as Lenny and Larry's. So with that being said, all you're going to need to do is start by preheating your oven to 350 degrees and get yourself a mixing bowl, and we're going to get started. So the first two things we're going to add in here and melt, kind of blend together. You're going to use some kind of butter, and I'm using this kind of yogurt butter, but you can use whatever you like. If you want to use a margarine, butter, organic, vegan, I don't care how you manipulate this recipe, it should work just fine. But I'm just choosing to use this yogurt butter, and we're gonna start with a half a cup of that and throw that in our bowl. And you don't need to melt it, we actually kind of want it chilled. And what we're gonna do is add to it our sugar. And for sugar today, I'm using Splenda, half a cup of that. But if you wanna use like cane sugar, which is used in Lenny and Larry's cookies, you can do that. I just like my Splenda, but you can substitute what you want. So 1/2 a cup of Splenda going in there. So now in our bowl, all we have is the butter and the sugar. We're gonna do what's called just kind of blending it or creaming it together. So just take a couple minutes and blend your butter and your sugar together.
You have to cream it?
You have to, yeah, you have to cream it. You have to get it creamy. The sugar should be fully kind of blended into your butter. Once we've got that all mixed together, we're gonna go ahead and add in our next ingredients. Now this might sound kind of odd, but what we're gonna use is 1 full teaspoon of flax seeds. And what I've done with the flax seeds is I've put them in a little Tupperware here of water, like 1 to 2 tablespoons of water, and I've just allowed the flax seeds to kind of absorb into the water. So that's all you're gonna do, and throw it into our recipe. So the flax is gonna give us a nice little source of fiber, heart-healthy fats. Just go ahead and dump that all in there. Next thing we're gonna add for sweetener, you may not have this laying around your house, but I happen to, so we're gonna use some molasses, and we're gonna use 2 teaspoons of that. If you don't have molasses laying around, you can just use something else that's gonna make it sweet. So I would suggest honey as an alternative. If you don't have either, you can omit it, but it may change the flavor and consistency a little bit. Molasses is super gooey, ooey and gooey. Now I'm gonna add just a crank of my sea salt in there, and I'm gonna mix this together really quick. For flour, I'm gonna use the King Arthur's whole wheat flour. I do prefer whole wheat flour when I make cookies. I personally think it tastes better, but up to you what type of flour you use. We're gonna add in there 1 full cup of our wheat flour. Go ahead and dump that in there. Protein powder, like I said, I've been loving the MTS way in the Isolate, the vanilla ice cream. The Isolates are super good. You guys can get those at tigerfitness.com. And we're gonna do a scoop and a half, which ends up being about a 1/2 cup of protein. So scoop and a half in there, and we're gonna go ahead and mix that all up. I'm just doing a basic chocolate chip cookie, so I'm going to add in some semi-sweet chocolate morsels. If you guys want to keep this a vegan cookie, you can do the vegan chocolate chips, whatever you want. But I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup of the dark chocolate chips. I'm just going to kind of fold those in with a cookie recipe. You don't want to over mix it, that will impact the final product. Ooh, before I forget, this could be an issue. I did forget one ingredient. We're going to add in some baking powder. So for baking powder, we're gonna add 1/2 teaspoon, which this is 1/4, so that's why you're gonna see me adding in a couple here. So now we're gonna make sure we mix that in there, fold in our chocolate chips, make sure our batter is ready to go. So once you've got your cookie batter all blended up, you're just gonna take a cookie sheet, and I put some parchment paper on top of it, so it just makes it easier to remove the cookies from. We're gonna give that baking sheet a little bit of a spray just because I don't want my cookies to stick. And for this recipe, because we want these cookies to be big, we're only gonna do about 4 to 5 cookies. So I'm just gonna kind of try to do this evenly. I'm just gonna take like a hunk and plop it on there. And we'll make sure they're all a little bit more proportioned after. So I just went ahead and eyeballed it to kind of make sure all cookies are the same size. And you don't want to leave them like this or else they probably won't flatten out. So I'm just going to use my spoon to flatten them out. And my fingers, let's be honest, that's easier. We're just going to go ahead and flatten them out right on the pan. Now we're going to go ahead and place these babies in the oven, 350 degrees for anywhere between 8 to 12 minutes. All right guys, I let my cookies bake for 8 minutes and then I took them out and let them cool. These ended up really good. You get a pretty large cookie. I don't know if you can tell how big that is. Pretty similar in size to a Lenny and Larry cookie. And nutritionally speaking, they're pretty comparable in terms of protein and fat. However, my version of this ends up being lower in carbs. For the butter that I used, since I did use a yogurt butter, that did cut the fat down, so just know if you use a regular butter, the nutritionals are gonna change a bit, so you may have to just plan it out if you wanna have this in your macros. This is a good way to get in your sweet tooth. You know, it's a little bit higher in fat, but you're still kind of getting in some good nutrition through these cookies with the flaxseed and the isolate protein. So there's always ways to modify these recipes at home, you guys. So don't feel like, you know, bummed out that you can't eat a Lenny and Larry cookie. There's always a way to modify it at home and make a fun version that you know what you're putting into your body. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Keep checking back for more.